Welcome to the Heartwork podcast, where we delve into stories, struggles, and triumphs of entrepreneurship, leadership, and personal growth. I'm Dr. Sara.
And I'm Dr. Marisa. We're here to guide practitioners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and those just navigating the complexities of life on a journey of discovery that explores the dance between passion and strategy, heart and hustle.
With candid conversations, insightful interviews, and plenty of laughs, get ready to uncover how leading with heart can transform your business and life. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Heartwork podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about some of our limiting beliefs about finances, money, and being able to just take the things that we are experiencing in our everyday and unpack them in what it means in the greater scheme of our lives.
One of the things I had said throughout this whole process with this property was I'm going to just keep saying yes to it because I feel like overall, like I felt really calm. I felt really just quiet and very grounded in the understanding that it's like, I don't need this to happen. If this isn't the right timing, if it's not the right space, then I will look and I'll just trust that something else is going to come. And ultimately, I'm learning a lot along the way about where my business needs to be, where it is currently, and also what next steps are necessary for this process to happen to add a satellite location. And so every time I kept having some yeses, like I talked to the bank, I kind of had this like interesting hesitation come up where I was like, I didn't feel like it was a hell yes. And I didn't feel like it was like a place where I was like, okay, cool, I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's do this thing. I'll sign the dotted line. And that like, it cued me a little bit where I was like, okay, something is going on in my heart to where I'm like, I need to like navigate this and figure this out. And so I got on the call with my coach and was just like, and she was asking me some questions and just kind of was navigating it with me. And it all came to a point where I think a lot of the hesitation came with not trusting myself in those decisions. And we expanded this past like 2 years. We knocked down walls, put a lot of reinvestment into our practice. I hired 2 doctors, hired more team with the desire and the belief that we were going to have a huge amount of growth in our company. And we did initially, which was so awesome. And we've continued to like serve an incredible amount of people in our community. And it's been amazing, while also it has not been easy. And it's been the hardest year and a half when it comes to just financial profit and like financial means. I've literally been in the red for more months than I've ever known. I've never been in the red, like it's just been the hardest like couple of years. And so just in that sense, and like we've really re-strategized culture and systems and like put back into place some things I think that just kind of fell off to the side a little bit. And now this past quarter, our profit margin just soared and it's been awesome. So we're in the process of it continuing to now work in our favor. But that's a little fucking scary a little bit, So it's like when you're about to say, okay, cool, I'm going to now invest and add more debt to more debt to our business, more debt to me, and expand us into another area that requires more work. It requires more process, all that type of stuff. And my coach also then said, she's like, one of the things I've wanted so much is that I don't necessarily like adding something doesn't necessarily mean it requires more. Doesn't mean there can't be like laser focus on a season where you're like, okay, this is this next step, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm like working 80 hours a week and not getting any sleep. Like you can still do all the things because you're strategic about it. At the same time, it still can feel very grounded, restful, and very flowing. So it was wild because like, again, the hesitation came from a place of feeling like it was all about the fear that I had and what that looked like. And when I was able to uncover that and just like say, okay, like, I don't really know even if this is what I want, but the question that I kept asking the question, is this what I want? And is this what God has for me? Versus the question that I then kind of redirected was, what is it that I do want? And does this then align with where I feel like the mission and vision of freedom is going? And so, and am I willing in a short period of time to navigate and figure out, can we figure out the systems? Can we figure out the logistics to add this in with it having the same focus and the same heart of, I don't want this to look like the same way when I open Freedom. I don't want it to feel like, I'm just a different person now. So that was kind of cool. And just a place of like understanding. It's like, I can still move toward those things. And so now, like when I got that message from the bank that it all kind of wasn't working, I'm like, I felt deflated. I felt a little bit disappointed. And I was like, shit, I just had this whole big old like realization and now it's not moving forward. Now what? So I guess in the sense I felt like I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to, can we continue to add to it and just continue to say like, I'm just going to keep discovering here and we'll go from there. So that part was just neat and just a place to say, okay, I don't feel like it's finished and we'll see where it goes at the end of the day.
Totally. I think too, for you and I, for me, this was my second practice opening. Thinking about opening a third practice I start to feel it in
Yeah.
my gut. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And I know that you very quickly can also recall the amount of work and time and effort that
Oh,
we
so much.
also put into like the building of our practices. And then also you just recently, like you said, went through an expansion and the building of that practice and adding on new doctors and the time and the effort that it takes to continue to pour into your business, baby, and watch and move that grow. And then you're dealing with the red needle versus the green needle and where that's navigating. And I'm sure that thinking about this second location in a further off place while also dealing with some changing team dynamics is like, what is this going to actually require of me?
Yep.
And like, naturally, we might go back to those places of how we used to do things before because we know that that's tried and true. However, we are different people now. And we know that the amount that we poured of ourselves into that practice in the beginning, we can do that. It's like working smarter, not harder now. Like, right? We know ourselves in a different capacity. We've grown to a different capacity. And the amount of time and effort and the also experience helps us be more streamlined in that practice. And also where you're at in life. And now you are more in that CEO role. Why can't you hire someone out of school that's ready to grind to the pedal to the metal and just do that for you instead of you having to go out and put your feet to the pavement, which you're naturally going to do anyway because you're involved and you're awesome and you want this to thrive, right? But does that workhorse need to come from you, or can you strategically have that come from other hires or other doctors that may have different capacities and gifts and want to be able to watch that thrive with you, right?
Sure.
And so how can we space that out? Because also when we did it, like, I mean, shit, it was how many people were on your team when you first opened Freedom? It was you and three? Two?
Yeah, 2.
I was me and three, basically 2.5, because one used to leave like in the early afternoon. So like you have a team of 10, 12?
10 now. Yeah. So I have 6 CAs and 3 doctors and one remote virtual social media person. So like, yeah. So we have the systems in place. It looks very different now, obviously, comparable to when I first opened my practice.
Yeah.
And that's been the thing. And like, I think even just the space for me has been very much like, I desire this to be different. I don't want this to be the same energy. And that's, I think, been part of the place of like, from the beginning of this, I wasn't just like put my freaking head down and like, this is all I do for one, because Freedom is our baby. Like that is the main source. And now I'm looking at the thing to add to that if this is the next step, and I feel like that's been cool too, just even with this podcast and like other different little ventures where it's like, there's still one of the main things, but ultimately I do believe that there can still be impact and still be opportunity to reach people and if my heart's in a place of like, which I understand it's so true in it, I desire to impact the person that is right in front of me. And I believe that impact itself can then ripple out and create a major and immense change. And ultimately at the end of the day, then if I can trust that, then I can trust that the fruit's going to be coming. And that fruit can look financial. It can look like wealth in my heart. It can look like just rest and peace and balance, like it can look a lot like just wealth and overall. So I think that's awesome. And I know it's been a season for you as well when it comes to some of just this like financial journey and just the excitement of where it puts you and stuff like that. And I loved, I know we were talking about it before we were hitting the record button, but I would love to like hear a little bit more of like what's been just like getting your heart geeked about when it comes to where you see your practice and where you see this next season of life for you and your practice, but also for the legacy that you're creating for your family.
Yeah, it's funny. It kind of makes me, like we were talking about going backwards almost and revisiting the past and all the little things that add up to then go forward. And one thing I've just discovered over the years and really over these last several months is just how much of an impact I want to make, but what that impact then can bring to my future legacy, and
Mhm.
what impact can that bring to my family and my husband, my children. And I've really just been diving into finances. I've always been interested in it. It's something I wish that we learned more growing up. Like, I think we had one class in high school that was life skills, and they taught you how to like write a check
Truly.
and balance your bank account. And like they might have told us a little bit about stocks, and we might have looked at what a NASDAQ and an S&P 500 was, but
Yeah.
like it was not intentional. It was just kind of, oh yeah, if you have a budget of $500 a month, like what are you gonna do? What do you actually need?
Mhm.
Oh, but you talk about like groceries
Right.
and random stuff.
Your
Like it's
day-to-day
not
stuff.
think about your mortgage and your
Yeah.
property taxes and your utility bills and fun play money and food on your table or a dog and what theirs expense. It's just so
Yeah.
much deeper. And then also compound interest and like savings accounts versus money market funds or, CDs or bonds and all the cool, fun financial things. And so I would say probably from selling my first practice and some of that in between time that I had to now, I really dove into learning a little bit more about finance and just managing finances. And shout out to Factora and the Wealth Circle. I joined their group back in February to do like a quick little Wealth Circle strategic session,
Mhm.
but I didn't actually even start it. So I had gotten this in February and was like, oh, I want to go in. Their whole motto is 1 million women to $1 million. And I just thought that was cool. I always loved supporting other female-owned businesses, and I loved what they stood for. But it took me all the way until our vacation, where I had a about 16-hour drive home with my husband and our dog to actually dive into the classes and have the time and set aside the time to do it. But I'm so glad that I did. And it was stuff that I kind of had already taught and learned myself, but it's also nice to hear it sometimes from a different person in a different way. And the
Mhm.
worksheets that they included were really impactful for me. So I'm working through those right now. But my husband and I are getting into a season where we do want to start a family in the near future. And kind of when we got married, we were like, we're going to wait 2 years. We want to just have some us time, enjoy us time being married. But I work with kids. We have friends that have kiddos. We spend more time around kiddos. And like, it's just been working in our hearts that like maybe that season could actually come sooner. But then I get this fear-based mindset of I'm not prepared for that.
Mhm.
I'm not prepared for the financial implication of having a child or being able to provide for a child in a very comfortable way. I didn't grow up with like boatloads of money. We weren't necessarily like in our neighborhood, the Jones of the Jones of the Jones. We were definitely comfortable. By no means were we uncomfortable in any capacity. My mom and my dad worked really hard to provide for us, and I am so grateful to them for that. My grandfather off the boat started a business and created a legacy for his family, his grandchildren. Like it's just incredible. And I don't know why, but I've just been doing some money unpacking and really kind of have felt that some of my limiting beliefs around money is about how my dog came into play. Some of my limiting beliefs around money include feeling like I'm only going to have it because of what someone else worked to give to me.
Mhm.
Like my parents worked hard to provide for us. My grandfather worked hard to provide for us grandkids. And
Mhm.
so it's like there's just some part of me that's like I don't deserve it, or I'm only going to get it if it passes down to me.
Sure.
But I don't want that. I want to create my own legacy for
Mhm.
myself and for my family. And my husband and I have just had greater conversations about starting up some joint accounts for investments and retirements. And we want to be able to have a 529 for a future kiddo, whether they want to go to school or whether they are going to eventually use that for something else. But we just want to be able to also provide for our family in the way that we want. And with that limiting belief, money may come in, but it seems to just disappear again. And I don't feel that I've been as responsible with money as I could have. When I was in my 20s, like I was in college, I worked multiple jobs. I provided for myself, but it just seemed like I was like, oh, I got it. It's done. Or like it's already spent. So when it goes, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I never really had intention about saving it and compounding the interest and doing that and just how powerful that is. And all you need is time in the
Mhm.
market to make a big difference, right? And
Mhm.
so when should you have started? Yesterday. So navigating through some of those conversations And unpacking some of those limiting beliefs, like I deserve everything that the universe wants to send my way. Like I am worthy of finances and money
Hell
because
yeah.
of the gifts that I have in this world and what that can help others with and impact others with. And so when that comes, like the gratitude for it and the taking care of it and cultivating it and helping it grow and helping it flourish. Why wouldn't I take care of my money in the same way I take care of myself and my body, in the same way that I take care of people in my practice, in the same way that I care for and value my friendships? Why does money seem to be the thing that I appreciate, but somehow don't, not as intentional with curating it, watching it grow, letting it be a flourishing money tree garden, right? And just letting that abundance continue to flourish through versus always being like, ooh, okay, well, I don't have it. But then you get it and you're like, okay, it's gone. I don't know if any of that makes any sense, but it's just been this very back and forth, like ocean wind of like unpacking stuff from my past while being very intentional about what we want to do with our future and what that looks like, being a self-employed, right? Like this is my practice. Nobody's there to take care of me but myself. I don't have a corporate job where I have benefit packages or 401ks or retirement things. And I'm learning about the accounts that you can create and open yourself to be able to provide for yourself in that way and then also be able to provide for my team. But it's funny, like everything I'm doing, I'm like thinking, well, I should get my team like some health insurance, or I should offer some benefits for this, or I should offer like a 401k match for my team and all these employer sponsored stuff. And it's like, Marisa, what the fuck? Like, why aren't you doing this for yourself? Like you also need to take care of yourself, because if you feel secure and happy, then that also is going to leak out into you as a leader, you as a boss, you as a provider for them and their families. And so taking on the responsibility for others, I need to take on that responsibility for me too. If this is what I want from my future and what I want for my family, like that means I just have to do it. And I might not be able to have all the information before I open one, but like just fucking do it, or hire someone who knows how to do it. And you just make it happen. And so I'm just learning more about that because my personality is to want to know everything about everything. To be able to do it myself and do it with intention. And that brings us back to earlier conversations about always needing to perform at my best and have all the fucking answers and just do it. But more and more, I realize the power of leveraging the knowledge that you have, but also leveraging the gifts and the knowledge that others have.
100%.
You don't need to know it all, but you can know where to find the answers. We do that for people in our practice all the time. They ask me questions. I'm like, you know what? I don't know the answer to that, but I can certainly find an answer, send you a resource for it.
Right.
Why can I not do this for myself?
Well, I think it's cool though, because like even this conversation is coming because you have taken intentionality with like, I mean, you've done the work up to this point, right? Like you've done the work so that you are able to understand, even be aware of where some of those limiting beliefs come from and where and what triggers them, what is the cycle that you go under and then or go through. And then also at the same time, like you think about just what you're putting into play within your day-to-day at your practice, like you're stepping out of the space of having to be the one to do every single detail. So that also, like, can you imagine if you were still doing every single detail, you still wouldn't have the space for this, for all of these ideas, for this creativity, for this space to come out. And so the practicality of you seeing like, okay, look, I need to be the CEO of this practice. I need to actually delegate and like take ownership of this is also bridging a gap to where you feel like you have the room to say, cool, now I can actually start to think about this. I have the because I'm a freaking boss babe, I can freaking figure this out and I can do the damn thing. What am I waiting for almost? And so
100%.
I love that so much.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up because it's true. Like the reason why I didn't start this class and dive into it in February was because, I mean, thinking back, February, March was one of the like hardest team transition times like in any of my practice years, right? And so there was just so much to focus on there. And I was thinking that I had to do it all to make sure that my team felt supported, to make sure that they knew that I was present, that I was going to make sure that we kept moving forward because we were in a season of growth and then there was change happening. It was just a lot going on. And so it's funny how over this last like 5 or 6 weeks, I really have been, okay, nope, I can let this go. Okay, nope, yep, you're, gonna take on more responsibility. Here's a promotion. You've been doing awesome. Like shifting some things out. And it creates space mentally and also physically to then be invited into that next. And even for us, we started our podcast in May, there's just so much more that I feel is out there. And there is this part of me that's like, you are destined for so much more than you currently know that you are. I want to play big. I know that I'm meant to be on some kind of big stage. And I don't mean big, like it has to be tens of thousands of people or anything like that. I just mean that currently, like I'm meant to impact more than what I am capable of believing that I am. And I feel that I am just being called into that space. But in order for me to expand and explore that space, I have to also let some other stuff go.
Totally.
So whether that be, I mean, even for myself, Alex will ask me, my husband, all the time, I'm like organizing the office again, or I'm like organizing my closet again, or I'm doing a whole nother like reset of the house again. And he's like, how do you continue to do this? I'm like, I don't know, but my mind is cluttered. And when my mind is cluttered, it means my space is cluttered and I got to get rid of old shit. Yeah. And so it's literally like, get rid of old beliefs, get rid of old processes or old ways of thinking that you have to do it this way, or that you have to have it on your plate, or that makes you a better person because you can do it all and you know it all. Right. I literally had to test out a team member the other day on like first adjustment verbiage and some other stuff. And I was like thinking on my brain, okay, yep, this is how I talk about it, or this is how I kind of talk about these kind of big points. And they said something in a way, and I was like, I don't really vibe. I don't really like the way that's said. And I share feedback. I was like, let's do this. And they're like, that's literally how you had wrote it and explained it to us and what we were studying through. And I was like, interesting. See how I don't even remember that crap, sure. Right? Yeah. So like I'm like, oh, okay. I'm revisiting a time where I may have put it out there in that way, and now it's time for a change. But I don't even remember the same things I'm supposed to be capable of, and they remember in a better way. And I had everybody go through their own first adjustment verbiage, and I was like, wow, I love the way you talk about that. I love the way you talk about that. You guys are talking about it better than I could have talked about it. All right, cool. And it's just those, we just get in our heads about it has to be like A, B, or C.
Right.
And man, that is so not just limiting in your capacity, but man, it is limiting in you being able to create more space to be able to step into that next level. And that's what I feel like you and I are both being called into that next level. And so we're kind of trimming the fat away right now.
Absolutely. And it's exciting because ultimately that's a place to where you can dream and you can be creative. And also at the same time, you can also trust that what is right in front of you is what's meant to be there. And that's at the end of the day, that's all we truly have. Like all we have is what God has put right in front of us. So I do know that I can trust, I can show up and be the best that I can, while also understand and believe that I truly have an inheritance for me. And I have this provision that has already been allotted for my freaking life. And at the end of the day, like, why not show up and race after that and run after that? And I feel like this season for both of us has been a season of let's say yes to what that looks like, regardless of what the result is. And I'm all in for that. Like, I'm like, let's freaking do that thing. And also navigate all the freaking stuff that comes up along the way that just is like, okay, all these freaking limiting beliefs that come along. So
it's kind of like paintball. Like, I feel like we're just like, I'm like, deflect.
Right. But yeah, keep going. Yes. For sure.
Bumper cars, maybe.
Love it. Well, we are so excited that you came in and listened with us today. I hope you guys took something from this, and we look forward to talking to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.